What's going on YouTube? Today I'm talking about laptops, and particularly the Framework 13 that I have in front of me, and also the M1 MacBook Pro that I bought as well. So originally the plan was not to buy two laptops. I did not want to do that, but we'll chat about the story and how I ended up getting here in the first place. So we're going to be working on the Framework 13 laptop because I have one or two parts that I need to replace, and I hope you stick around and enjoy. Let's get started. I actually ended up buying this used off Facebook Marketplace for $450, which is pretty unbeatable for a used Framework laptop. This is one of the original frameworks. It has the 11th gen Intel i5 motherboard and CPU in this chassis, which isn't super powerful, but I don't necessarily need it to be because I've, desktops and mini PCs that I can just SSH into and run more powerful things if necessary. But overall, I think for now, this computer in its kind of muscle, the processing power is just fine for what I need. And there was actually a problem early on with these 11th gen Intel motherboards with the CMOS battery. And essentially what was happening is that they wouldn't hold the charge over if you left it unplugged for a longer period of time, then the CMOS battery would just discharge on you, and then you would have trouble recharging it even if you plugged in the laptop later on. So that's the first thing that we're going to be replacing today. And actually, here's the little battery. You can buy this form factor, anywhere, but the thing is, Framework really suggests that you get it from them because it's going to be the exact voltage of what the motherboard expects. So if you do have an older Framework and you're running into this problem, you can just reach out to support and answer some basic questions. Again, I bought this used. I didn't have to provide an order number because I didn't buy it off the Framework Marketplace. So yeah, no big deal. I just sent some details about the laptop and they went ahead and sent me the replacement battery, which is really nice of them. But while I was disassembling the laptop, after I opened up the back panel here and took it off to take some pictures to provide to Framework support, I ended up totally ripping the touchpad cable. And this cable also, if I can get this guy, this cable also connects the keyboard to the motherboard as well. So I just totally ripped this guy. What ended up happening was, actually, we remove it from the top side now. So I ended up lifting up the input cover here, and then I was at a table, and typically this cable is connected from the input cover to the motherboard here, but I dropped the input cover with the keyboard and touchpad and everything. I dropped it, and it just totally ripped the touchpad cable, which is a bummer. But luckily with Framework, it's really easy to replace parts. So on every part, I believe, in this computer, they have little QR codes on each of the parts. So if you need to replace it, then you should be able to just go to that link or scan the QR code with your phone's camera, and it should take you to instructions or replacement part if you need to replace it. Unfortunately, that happened, but we're actually here to replace the CMOS battery. And so this guy, it's already popped out. It was originally here, and I need to replace it with a new one. But before that, let's just make sure that we're gonna follow all the instructions that they want us to follow to access the mainboard and RTC battery. So I think, technically it's called the RTC battery. I've been calling it the CMOS battery. It's a tiny coin cell battery on the mainboard that preserves the system clock and hardware state. Designed to last for many years, But in the event that it wears down, you need to reset the CMOS state. And so we need to do that. But also because the battery itself wasn't recharging, then that was a bit of a bummer. And again, it says here the battery should only ever be replaced with a 3-volt, and this is the model number ML1220 lithium manganese dioxide coin cell battery. Woo, that's a mouthful. But again, you want to make sure you're using the correct battery. Just get it from Framework. It's pretty easy. Doesn't take too long. Yeah, it looks like the 12th gen and later systems don't even have an RTC battery, or at least it's not required. So this is really only relevant for the 11th gen system. Okay, so this is the guide that I'm looking for, fully resetting the mainboard state, and that's because it's relevant to popping out the RTC battery and popping it back in, which is just what we need to do. Probably don't need this guide, to be honest, but just want to make sure I'm doing everything correctly. Remove the bottom cover, take off the input cover carefully. Eject the RTC coin cell, which is already ejected. Unplug the Framework laptop battery. So that's this guy way down here. And you can kind of grip these little edges on the connector and just pull straight back. That's all you need. Doesn't take that much effort. And now it says go ahead to plug in the AC power. And we see the LEDs on the left and right hand sides blinking red, which is what we want. And then at this point, we can reinsert the RTC coin cell. So let me grab that. Okay, so we've got our new battery, and we need to disconnect the AC power and then just slide in the battery with the top edge first and just press it down. Next, we need to insert the battery connector back in. You want to double check that the pins are straight first. I'm pretty confident that mine are. Reconnect the battery connector. And then at this point, we can plug the AC power back into the laptop. It says we want to leave the power adapter plugged in for 5 minutes. And at that point, we can disconnect the power adapter and reassemble the laptop. All right, so while we wait 5 minutes, let's talk about why I ended up with 2 laptops. I was, again, deciding between the M1 MacBook Pro, an older model to save money, still very powerful enough for what I do, and between the Framework, top-of-the-line Framework with the newer AMD chips as well. I was gunning for the AI9 HX370, $1,700, but this also does not include memory or storage. So with those two, say I wanted 32 gigs of RAM, probably a terabyte of storage, you're getting close to $2,000. Now, I didn't necessarily have to pick the top of the line AMD, but 12 cores, 24 threads, maybe I would game on it a little bit. It was just really tempting. But ultimately, when comparison videos started coming out of this machine and the older AMD models, I was just disappointed, and I guess I expected more performance and also more battery life, but maybe I was just asking too much, right? The ARM chips that Apple use are simply superior with battery life than the x86 processors that AMD and Intel are still using. And that's just a fact at the moment. So I found my M1 MacBook Pro on eBay for around $900. That was a base model M1 MacBook Pro. It was in excellent condition. Everything from the keyboard to the display to the battery health. The battery health was at 99%. It had very few cycles on it. So I felt confident in just the money that I was saving, spending $2,000 on this Framework versus just $900 or so for the M1 MacBook Pro. And I think even now you can get these M1 MacBook Pros for renewed on Amazon for $725. I mean, that is a killer deal. There's a lot of processing power in these M1 Pro chips that I think is plenty sufficient for most people. And while I had my MacBook Pro, Linux was really gaining momentum, and Framework really was too. Largely, I'd say because of DHH, who is the creator of Ruby on Rails. He's the pendulum really for him has swung the other way from loving Apple computers to loving framework computers and also embracing Linux as well. He's also led the charge on Omachi and built a pretty solid community around this opinionated Linux distro, which is Arch under the hood, but it uses Hyperland. So if you're a software developer or if you're just a Linux fan in general and you want to use Arch, then check out Omachi. I think it's a solid Linux. I don't know if it's a distribution. It's more of an opinionated Arch build, more or less. I was just getting FOMO from not having a framework laptop, and I was getting FOMO because I really just wanted to use Linux as my main operating system. And I was just torn really because I'd already bought the MacBook Pro and I already spent, $900, and I really didn't want to spend more money on another computer. But the thing is, I kept my eye out for used framework laptops on Facebook Marketplace, and I got extremely lucky. And with this 11th gen framework laptop, I found this on Facebook Marketplace for $450. That included the 11th gen Intel chip i5, 16 gigs of RAM, 500 gigs of SSD storage, and it came with several expansion cards as well. And actually it came with a 1 terabyte expansion card. So for $450, I have a friend that says you can't afford not to buy it. And I think it's funny, but it's kind of true in this situation because I saw $450 and I was like, I'm not going to get a better deal than that. And I didn't care that it was an older 11th gen Intel. I think I can do some basic development and basic web browsing on this, and it's going to be fine. Okay, so at this point, I think we can disconnect the power adapter and reassemble the laptop. But while we're here, I need to install the new touchpad cable. Okay, I think I've got it in there. I need to connect it to the motherboard side. Okay, I think that's it. Let's power it up and see if this guy turns on. Looks like it is. Love it. I think if you're in the situation like me, you like Linux, you like building computers, maybe you're a software engineer, and you don't care that much about battery life and the Mac or Apple ecosystem, I think you should go framework. And you don't have to go top of the line. I think looking back, that was something I didn't have to do. I didn't have to buy the top of the line AMD framework laptop. I think I could have gone with the previous generation with the 7000 series and it would have just been fine. I could have done software development on it, could have done some light gaming as well. So I think looking back, I would have just went with that framework 13 instead of the MacBook 14 that I ended up buying. And this laptop is going to be supported, well, I guess maybe not forever, but for as long as framework is willing to support this chassis. And, I don't plan on upgrading the motherboard anytime soon. Maybe if I sell my MacBook Pro, I could upgrade the motherboard. But at this point, I think I might just wait for newer gen motherboards to be released because it's not that pressing for me at the moment to upgrade the motherboard. I will say, I also did end up buying the 2.8K higher resolution screen as well. I haven't installed that yet, but I'll try to make a comparison video on that as well. And if it's worth it for you, if you're considering upgrading the display as well, then maybe you could gather some insight from that. So anyways, just wanted to work on the framework laptop today with you and, repair a couple things, get it back up and running with the new RTC battery and the new touchpad cable. We're ready to rock. I love the repairability of these things. It's really satisfying. And if you are going to buy a framework laptop, first of all, look to buy used. That's what I did. Second of all, buy the DIY version and build it yourself because I think it's an enjoyable experience that you won't regret. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment. And if you like the video. And if you want to see anything similar, if you want to have more framework laptop videos, then let me know. Let's explore it together. Peace.